Religion should be a place of solace, and for some, maybe it is. But there are often times where religion is used as a weapon to control, judge, and condemn. Welcome to Unholier Than Thou, a new podcast from the Surviving Podcast Network, where survivors bravely share their personal experiences of healing from trauma within cults, religious institutions, and the troubled teen industry. Your hosts will delve into the devastating aftermath of religious indoctrination, exploring the pain, the struggle, and the incredible resilience of those who have dared to break free. I would love for you all to meet your hosts, Jenny and Susie. Ladies, I'm so excited with what you all are doing, and thank you for letting me be here to host the very first episode of Unholier Than Thou.
This is so exciting, David. I love that we get to do this with you, this episode, and to host with Jenny.
Yes, I'm so excited to be a part of the Surviving Podcast Network, which is so exciting. I just feel very honored and blessed to be a part of this and to be able to share my story, but also to have this platform to talk with other survivors and to help each other through their journey of healing. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we are too. And just listeners, just so you all know, my name is David, and I'm the co host of the Process of Healing along with Susie. I started the Surviving Podcast Network because there were so many different forms of trauma, so many ways that people need help, and there's so many different ways that people receive that help. And I wanted to hit all of that. Susie and I have been discussing what we would like to do regarding her story with the troubled teen industry and the religious abuse of things that I personally did not suffer from. We met Jenny, and immediately she was one of us. We brought her on, and we have such an amazing team that's also including Becky and Jason and Shanna Forrestal. Together, we are powerful, we are growing. I'm so honored that you all are letting me host the very first episode to introduce you all, to share you all in this platform with the world. Susie, I want to start with you because I'm assuming several people already know who you are from the platform we have been building. But for any new listeners out there, tell us a little bit of your background.
Yeah, David, I'm so glad to be here and to do this with you. We met a couple of years ago when you invited me to share my story and the stuff I went through growing up. I had a very interesting childhood, I guess you could say, very full of religious indoctrination, but definitely situations where church and the Bible was used as a weapon and an excuse to mistreat and abuse me growing up. It wasn't just with my parents, there were other situations and people within a church environment that I definitely think those things were able to happen because of just the way that we were trained or groomed as we grew up for women in a church environment. And as I got to know more of life outside of the strict church ways that I grew up, I realized there's so much more to life and love and kindness and happiness. It's being able to share this journey with you of healing for the stuff that I went through. It took a long time for me to get over having to keep stuff secret and having to keep it silent to where I really felt like I can start sharing that now. It's been so freeing, so exciting. I just love the chance now to connect with other people and to hear their stories of survival and for the stuff they went through. And even just to recognize that I'm not alone in what I went through. And I think we're going to be able to find Jenny's story and other people's story as they share on our new Unholier Than Thou, that so many people have had similar experiences of mistreating people within a church environment.
I think it's so important to point out that when we, and honestly, I shouldn't speak for everybody, so I'm going to speak for myself. But when I thought of religion being a weapon, I pictured it only inside a single family home.
Mhm.
What has opened my eyes is when we did the Rebecca mini series of the troubled teen industry to find organizations that do this. That is what is so important for us to hit on. It is not just a mom or dad inside the house saying girls don't wear this and boys don't do that. There is a whole cult. So many people call it a cult. I personally would call it a cult, but I always try to legally protect us with how I say things just because you never know. I think that is so important that we hit on that. I know it was very eye opening to me. The last thing I'll say to that, Susie, is I was so honored to be the very first podcast that you were on to share your story. And we were talking off the record of the past 3 going on 4 years now, maybe, where you shared your story with me on my brand new platform that truly put me on the map to the point of Paris Hilton being involved. Watching you grow from sharing your story on my small platform to becoming a co-host with me to now becoming a co-host to a second podcast with Jenny. And you're not just sharing your story, you're screaming it from the mountaintops. And it's powerful. And I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
It's been an amazing gift to be a part of that.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. I love that. That's exactly how I see it too. And when I'm sharing what happened to me and giving people a chance to share their stories too, like we're just letting people know you can be safe, you can have healing, you can find love and care. It doesn't have to be lonely or hurtful. It's just so exciting that we get the chance to do this. And I love that I can do this with you and now with Jenny too. This is going to be so good.
I think when it comes to religious trauma, it's used as a weapon. We don't believe that we're worth healing. We're the sinner. We're the bad person. We're unsavable. We are whatever was taught to us in order for the leader to have control over us. I don't want to say that we forget that we are worth. It's just that we were never told that we were. And damn it, we're here to tell people that we are. And that leads me to our new friend, Jenny. I'm going to preface with this.
Yeah.
Susie and I have started doing TikTok lives, and I love them. We're a small group but mighty. If you're not following us, follow us. And Jenny started popping up, and we truly clicked.
Yeah.
We're going to be sharing both of your stories on separate episodes, episodes 2 and 3. So why don't you introduce us and tell us about your pretty little face?
Aw, thank you so much. You guys are just so sweet. I love y'all so much. It's so great having new friends, isn't it? It's the best. So y'all can make new friends at 45. You can do it.
Oh, did we get your real age on camera? I'll be getting a message later that says, hey, will you edit that part out?
Is it like stepped over at any age?
Yeah. Yes, I am Jenny. And as David said, I was in a religious cult. A lot of people ask, what exactly does that mean? Were you standing around a cauldron doing spells or whatever? And no, it was just mind control, a place where they would use the Bible as a weapon to control you, especially as a woman. The Independent Fundamental Baptist Church was a big deal. And we were taught that women didn't have a place in church or society. Our only place was in the home, having children, and being a good wife and mother. That was essentially all our roles according to the Bible. So I grew up in that environment. I was very fortunate to have my dad as my dad because he really was not your typical independent fundamental Baptist pastor. He was not very legalistic in terms of that cult, but unfortunately, there were several people within the church that controlled a lot of that and allowed things to happen that my dad didn't really put his foot down with. And so that was a huge part of some of my trauma growing up. He did, however, arrange a marriage for me after I was dating a guy in college for 3.5 years. We were going to get married. I had the dress, we had the date. The only thing that was lacking was the ring. We had a little family trip up in Mackinac Island, Michigan. We stopped at a little ice cream shop and we were sitting at a table. My dad says, "We're at a round table. Let's have a round table discussion." And his dad and my dad began to argue over what version of the Bible was right. And so upon leaving that ice cream shop, we get in the car to go home. I was told that boy was not God's will for my life and I will not be seeing him again.
Oh my gosh.
2000, the year 2000, I have not seen or heard from him since. Fast forward to that summer, my dad had been contacted by an IFB evangelist who was looking for placement for his son for the summer, an internship. They arranged for this IFB son to come and work at my dad's church as the interim youth pastor. It didn't take long for our parents to tell us that this was God's will and that we were to get married. A year later, we were married. I was married in the dress I was supposed to marry my college sweetheart in on the date that we were supposed to get married. The first night of the honeymoon, it was absolutely terrifying. I was a virgin. That led to a 5.5 year marriage of domestic abuse. We did have a daughter together towards the end of the marriage, and I was able to escape that situation with help from a domestic violence organization. That then led me onto a path of independence for the first time, finding myself for the first time, experiencing things that I had never experienced in my life for the first time, and really coming into the beginning of my healing journey, and ultimately led me to where I am today. So I am super excited for y'all to hear my story, but I won't give you any more spoilers. And I just hope that this platform and this podcast network is just a shining light for anyone listening to know that this is a safe place to share stories of survival in any aspect. We see you as a survivor and we've been there. We're all standing together. And I think that is so powerful.
I did not know that. You had mentioned some of this stuff, but I had no idea. That day, your college sweetheart never talked to you again. Man, I just want to have words about that.
Yeah, I didn't find out until a few years later that there were attempts made to my father. I was already married at the time that I found this out. And I found out, actually, I don't think I mentioned this in my episode, but I was the church pianist for my dad's church while I was married. And they sent me to a music seminar in Indiana. Me and another girlfriend of mine from the Bible college we went off to this music seminar, and we're walking into the church building. And I hear my name called in the parking lot, and I turn around and it is my college sweetheart's
parents.
And yes, because it was at their church, but I never thought that I would run into them because they didn't play instruments. And this was like an off day. It wasn't like a church service day or anything like that. And they were there and they were like, "Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you." Now, mind you, this is 20 years later or something. And I'm like, "Oh, wow. I didn't even think you guys liked me. This is so weird," because I didn't know anything. And then they actually invited me and my girlfriend to stay at their house for the next 2 days, which was really weird because I stayed in his old bedroom and there's a wedding picture on the nightstand. And I'm like, this is really weird. But they told me that night that he was devastated for years and didn't date for 4 years or something. And that several attempts have been made to contact my dad to arrange a meeting. And my dad was like, "Nope, she's already moved on."
Oh my gosh.
And I never got that closure. And it put me in a really bad situation. But I look at it now as things happen and things work out how they're supposed to eventually. And that even though bad things can happen, like ultimately, what are you going to do with those bad things? Are you going to let them turn you into a bitter person, a person of regret, a person of my life was ruined, now I can't move on? I was in that slump for a long time until I decided to do the work and go to therapy and actually start working on myself. And that changed everything for me. And at that point, I was like, if I stay that bitter, angry person because I was angry at God, my parents, my ex, everybody, I was a good girl growing up. I did everything I was told. I obeyed my parents. I did everything the Bible told me to do. And this is where it ended up.
Yeah.
And so I had to change my mindset to say, yeah, stuff happens, bad things happen to people, including myself and my daughter. But if I stay in that negative space, then those people win. So, what am I going to do to take this experience and turn it into a positive to help other people? And that's what I'm doing now. And I love it. And it's so healing and freeing. And I love helping people. So I know I'm in the right space.
I'm so glad we can be a part of that with you. Susie, we may need to take note of this because I feel like this could be a really cool conversation for us to have as a group discussion. Just so the listeners know, we have several podcasts under our Surviving Network. We have several amazing people. Sometimes we have roundtable discussions where we talk about hot topics. If any of the listeners have anything that they would like, I guess, as a group talk about, send it to us. We hear you, we see you, we'll do it. Jenny, you made a comment of, yeah, life happens, bad things happen. And I agree with that. But I feel that, and maybe a roundtable discussion that we have one day is, I feel that bad things are naturally going to happen, right? Things will naturally come to an end. You take my partner and I, we were together for a while. We had an amazing time together. We just fell out of love and went different directions. We both wished each other well. But then there are those natural endings or those natural bad, hurtful things, but then the man-made ones.
Oh, yeah.
And so where I struggle is when we talk about, yeah, I was sent to this school, and I spent time here, and I was abused here, and this was done. I admire the courage and the strength in that, but it shouldn't happen. Those are the man-made things that shouldn't happen. And until we get to the core of the problem, which is where I think the generational abuse comes into play, like the narcissistic things, if we take what we know in our generation and where mental health has progressed, I don't know a single person that can't look at a grandpa, maybe a parent, depending on the age. Narcissist was not a diagnosis back then, but you're still not a thing. Or bipolar wasn't a thing back then, or it wasn't called this. Like growing up, we had one horribly ugly word that I will not repeat for someone that had a mental illness. Now we've evolved from that to the point that we don't use that word anymore. And so I think that's part of that generational cycle. Until we get to the core of it, not much is going to change. We want to be there for victims. We want to be there for the survivors. But if we're only putting a Band-Aid over an open wound, you bleed through the Band-Aid. And so we have to get to the core of it. What I think becomes very intimidating and challenging is the victims, in most cases, are not the core. So you're hitting a wall. So that's why, as a society, we have to get to that. I think that is also playing a role in maybe where we are here in the States politically, because people know that certain generations are ending People are trying to hold on to that, and it becomes dangerous. And so what I love that we're doing is we're working on getting to the core, or at least as close to the core as we can. I'm not going to be able to get to the core of my attacker's issues. I don't know him. That's his responsibility. But if we normalize it, if we make getting to the core of your mental health cool, they'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
If we normalize these conversations, if we show that we can laugh, one of the things that I take so much pride in, people message us and they're like, you're telling your story, but you're laughing and smiling. I've had someone say, even when there were moments I could laugh and smile, I was afraid to, because if I am a victim of this, how can I laugh and smile now? And that's what we have put as a society on victims.
Mm-hmm.
I have also had people message me and say, David, I think that you're trying to monetize from your trauma, but you're laughing, so obviously it wasn't that bad. Baby, it was bad. My laughter is how I got my control back.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're all after as victims, right? That the first thing we feel, and what I found common, is people saying, I feel like I lost my power. I want my power back.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I laughed and I heard myself laugh, I was like, oh, I missed that sound. That was empowering. So I think the more that we have these conversations, the more we make talking about your trauma and finding a way to smile through the bad, when we make it cool, when we make it where the girls and girls can do it and high five with it and celebrate the fact that you were scared yesterday to walk to your mailbox and today you did it.
Yeah.
Once we make that cool and normalize that, we're going to get to the core of things.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about my tangent, but I'm just so passionate about this. You know what? I think I need to be a host with you all on this podcast.
Right, the three of us. Here we go.
And I think what that means is exactly what you all are afraid of. That means I'm going to sit here and talk to you all.
Like in session, and like this is therapy right here. You're awesome.
Maybe we start another podcast.
Right. Therapy sessions.
I love that. I think that we have all the time and money in the world. I'm like, let's do this, let's do that. And you're like, David, we've got 4. Sit down for a minute. Okay. So what I thought would be cool is, I know personally for myself, when I was going through my trauma, I needed to have icebreakers. I needed to feel comfortable with someone before I shared those parts of me that people remembered that I don't remember. All I know is what someone else has told me. I was grasping at straws, I was trying to put this puzzle together, and pieces were all over the place. And then I was told, we got to talk about this. You can't just keep it in. I didn't recognize my parents. I didn't recognize my siblings. I didn't trust anyone. I was going to be put into a room with a therapist I've never met before. If I'm not comfortable with the people that tell me they're my family, how am I going to be comfortable with this stranger that doesn't know me? As I started listening to podcasts and developing relationships with people, there were questions I would ask. There were things I would do to build a bit of rapport. What I love about all the podcasts that we have is, even though they're all branded under survivors and healing, they all have their own niche. We're going to be hitting a lot of different targets. So I come up with a few icebreaker questions that dig a little bit deep into you all personally. My hope is that if someone is listening to this for the first time that doesn't know any of us, hearing you respond to these questions is going to give them the courage to continue to listen. Hoping that leads them to a place where they send us an email and they're ready to share.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
I have a couple of questions for you all.
Great.
And I will say,
Ready.
Bring it.
I have these designated to you all individually, but
Okay.
it doesn't matter. If there's something that the other person can relate to or chime in on, please do.
Yeah.
So, Susie, I'm going to start with you, my love.
Mm-hmm.
And you've had a unique upbringing within the TTI, which stands for the Troubled Teen Industry.
Yeah.
Can you share a defining moment where you began to question the teachings and realizations that were given to you that you knew were not right?
4 years ago in January, I had grown up knowing that my parents worked at lesser roll-offs, troubled teen homes for girls and boys, wayward girls, as they like to talk about it. Our friend Barb Foreman has the best way of saying it, talking about hippies, druggies, and dope dives. He was a terrible person, and you should listen to our other episodes to know about him. I always grew up hearing that my parents did such an amazing job there, and they were so helpful to all of these kids. That's where my parents met. I was supposed to be born on the compound, and thank goodness my grandma showed up and was like, "You're not having your here." So I got to be born in a hospital. But I lived there for my first year, even after, in all of the other places where my dad was a pastor or a deacon. That connection to Lester Roloff was so important. 4 years ago, found out that my dad had faked his death, which is a whole thing we can talk about in my episode. Found out he had faked his death. And I already about a lot of the mistreatment growing up, but that was a catalyst for me saying, all the stuff that I used to believe in and all the things that I was told, I'm now going to just hold it up to the light and see, is this even true? Because my mom had helped him fake his death and some other family members. And I was like, what is happening here? My life and everything that was built up around it was no longer the truth to me. It had always been a lie, but it was no longer the truth anymore. I remember going online one night. I'm sitting on the side of my bed and I'm like, I'm just going to look up who Lester Roloff really was. And all this information started popping up about how abusive he was to all these kids and all of these court cases, and even how he had the Christian Alamo, where the state of Texas tried to do the right thing by these girls and he refused. And it was all while my parents were there. And while I was there, it shattered my world in a good way. And what happened though is I called my aunt, who actually worked down here too at Lester Roloff's. So there was a whole family thing between my dad, my mom, and all my aunts, and then my uncles were involved too on both sides of the family. I called my aunt and I was like, you're not going to believe what I found out about Lester Roloff and the stuff that happened there. Even before I was able to finish, she goes, oh, those girls are liars. And I said, nah, that is impossible. There are court cases with hundreds of kids that were abused, hundreds. And now there's like thousands of kids. And she's, oh, they are all liars. And I was thinking, no, you're the liar. No way. I no longer believe all the crap that you have been telling me all these years about this stuff, because there's too much actual evidence of all this mistreatment. And it's the same stuff that I grew up with. There's no way that hundreds of thousands now of kids within these troubled teen homes could be liars. It's just ridiculous. And it chokes me up because it just makes me so angry still that my family participated in hurting these kids. I come to find out there's a book out, April Was Here, where my mom is one of the main villains in it, of how she mistreated these poor girls. And that's what I grew up with. And I don't know why I never thought, hearing these stories about all their great work with Lester Roloff, that of course that wasn't true either. It was not good works. And they learned how to do evil, horrible things to all these kids, and where they really had an obligation to help them, these kids who were hurting so much. 4 years ago, I decided my goal in life now is to help if I can, because I can't believe my parents were part of something so horrific.
I hate that you are a victim of something so horrific, but you survived it and you're amazing. And you're breaking the cycle. You have a lovely, healthy marriage. You have a lovely home. You have two amazing kids and you're breaking the cycle. I can even see you in my head saying, no, it stops here.
Mhm.
That is so empowering. It's so beautiful. I'm so proud of you. And thank you for sharing that. It gets me choked up too. I've asked a similar question to people before in other episodes I've done, and they've always had that, their response has always been something of, if their trauma happened when they were younger at 12, at 15, they had that realization or that questioning of what if. And it's a punch in the gut every time that when you said, yeah, 4 years ago.
I get almost ashamed that it took so long.
No, that shows how
Yeah,
there's
that's
nothing
true.
to be ashamed of. That shows how deep the indoctrination, the grooming,
Mhm.
the thing that it shows how deep it runs. And
Yeah.
don't you dare carry that as your burden.
Thank you.
And I can even see like Jenny smiling when you're talking because we see your strength, we know your strength.
Mhm.
We're just so proud of you.
Thank you. You're the best.
The question I have for you, Jenny, is,
Okay.
we talked about you in the arranged marriage and it happened within the IFB. Can you describe the emotional and psychological impact that's had on you?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I appreciate that question. And I had to think about it for a second, but absolutely 100% one of the things that I had to deal with emotionally, mentally, psychologically was just my sense of worth. Because when you're in an abusive marriage, an abusive relationship, abuse of any kind, those people, the abusers, they want to basically reduce you to nothing. And so for that in the marriage, but also previously growing up in the IFB and being told as a woman, you become a mother, you become a wife, and you're good for nothing other than that. You're really taught that is all you are worth. And then going into the marriage within the IFB, and this guy being an IFB person himself and growing up with a long history of IFB pastors and evangelists in his family, he had those same principles and that same mindset. So everything paired with their interpretation of the Bible and what a woman's role is, you are not to ever question your husband. He can pretty much do whatever he wants. You have to submit to whatever he wants. You're taught, do not defraud your husband. If he wants to have sex with you in any way, shape, or form, you have to allow that, because he's the man and the man is under God, and then you're under the man. It's that whole hierarchy of God, your husband, you, the kids. It's that umbrella. And I know that Bill Gothard has that same principle. And so I think that a sense of just not feeling worthy, not feeling valued, not feeling seen, not feeling heard, like all of those things that women in that cult experience. I experienced that for a long time. And even to this day, certain things will trigger me. If I call somebody and they take 3 days to call me back and they're like a good friend of mine and we talk every day, and then all of a sudden they're not talking to me for 3 days, I'm like, what the heck? Did I do something wrong? What did I do to deserve this treatment? And so I have to step back and remind myself, hey, everyone's busy. It's okay. Don't take it personally. And I have to work through that sometimes to bring myself down and ground myself again. But I do struggle with that still, like feelings of worthiness and feelings of being valued. On the flip side, as a positive, I've cut a lot of people out of my life that were taking advantage of me within the last few years. Friends that I've had for a long time, a couple of friends that I just do not talk to anymore because they didn't value me as a person, my time, my opinion. They just didn't value me in my friendship. So I decided I'll love you from afar, but you're no longer in my circle. I've learned a lot from that. It wasn't pleasant, but that's what I've taken out of it as far as where I'm at now.
I've not been in that situation. And I wonder and I struggle and I battle and I can't come up with the answer because I've not been in that situation. So this question is to both of you. I know that Susie, your situation definitely has no way to relate to this, but I know with people you've worked with and what you've experienced that you might have some insight on it. I'm trying to find the right word to use. And let me start with the trigger warning. I feel that with a platform such as ours, we just know going in that is trigger warning. But I feel like what the question I'm about to ask could be very triggering to people. So, trigger warning. You consensually marry this person and had sex with this person, and you said you were a virgin. Mm-hmm. But even though you conceded to it, it was more out of obligation. It was not because it's what you wanted. That's Correct. Not how you pictured losing your virginity. That's not who you pictured losing your virginity with. Susie, you can definitely relate to that. Sure. I don't know what word to put with it, and I'm stumbling on it because I want to be so respectful.
Yeah.
But I keep going to rape. Is that how you felt?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Because there were times in your case, and of course, Susie, definitely your case, because your case was not a consensual marriage. It was a whole other thing. Mm-hmm. But even though this was a man that you were marrying, it was arranged, and he knew. Mm-hmm. Like, you didn't let him think for a second, I love you, I want you, and this is going to be the rest of forever.
No. In fact, there were times early on in our marriage, like right after the honeymoon, where I told him that I was still in love with the other person, that I did not want to be married to him. But it was out of obligation. I was an adult and I consented because I didn't think I had other options. It's almost like duress. You're being told, here are your options, but it's only one option. This is the one you're going to do, and you're going to sign on the dotted line, whether you like it or not. And yes, I had never been molested as a child, but when I was being raped, it felt like I was being molested, and it was the worst feeling. And I would just lay there and cry, and he would continue. And I thought to myself, I saved myself my whole life. I saved myself for this. I don't want to do this. And it's terrible and it's awful. And I don't want to give too much away because you got to listen to my episode. But a dear friend of mine who has been a lifelong friend, she steered me in the right direction and gave me some advice and took me somewhere and told me what to do. And I realized it wasn't me. It wasn't my issue. It was his issue. And yes, definitely, to answer your question, yes.
And David, that's the thing about the church environment that Jenny and I both grew up in, where you were just taught as a woman that you really have no choice. You were doing a biblical duty to your man, allowing them to do all of these things. It's really twisted. No fun for even a little kid. They're taught that if you do this and this, you'll be kept safe. And if guys do this and this, they'll be forgiven. You are required almost to do these certain things, or it's going to cause generational sin. It's going to cause your man to stumble. It's going to cause a church to be led into sin and like demons attacking and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's
manipulative.
Yes, good word. Yes. I don't know, Jenny, if you heard it like this, but I was always taught sex is like a fire. Outside of a fireplace, it's going to burn the whole house down. But in the fireplace, it's supposed to be good and warming and wonderful. But no one ever explains that. Mm-hmm. And it allows the church environment to get away with a lot of stuff. Thankfully, for me, my husband is the person that I freely gave myself to. for the first time ever. One of the reasons that I did save myself was I was just taught if you are not a virgin, bad things are going to happen to you. No one ever talks about the fact that you got married and then bad things happen to you.
I love that you said that about your current husband because I agree with that wholeheartedly. My current husband, Ryan, was not raised in church whatsoever. For the first time ever, I had a male come into my life and accept me for everything, for every little flaw, positive and negative thing. He accepted my young daughter and my family and all the craziness that comes with that. Your husband was the first person you willingly ever gave yourself to.
Yeah,
That is, I agree with that. It's just been an amazing journey to have a relationship outside of that obligation that I had before and how wonderful and freeing it is. I love that you said that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
One of the hardest questions that I've had to help someone through is something that I think will come up a lot with the topics that we cover on any of our podcasts. A lady said to me that she felt like she was being raped by her husband, but she was taught a husband couldn't rape you, couldn't marry. I want to say that is not true. Your husband can rape you. Anybody that does anything to your body that you do not want them to do is a violation. But then where she was really struggling is she said, there were times, David, that I would put up a fight and he overpowered me and he finished. She said, and finally I just stopped fighting because it took so much of my energy that I needed in case I needed to run when he fell asleep, in case I needed something, I could not fight. And so what she was struggling with is she said, I was not consensual to the sex, but was I consensual to my rape? And to have to think that someone has that thought going through their head. Like when she told me that, I was like, okay, let's take a 5 because that's deep. So she was carrying this burden with her because I didn't put up a fight, because I didn't say no, because my fighting and me saying no only exhausts me. So I laid there and let him. My thing to that is, he knew what your body was saying and he chose to continue.
That's a great way to put it.
Wow. What I love about our platforms is we laugh, we cry, we talk about the dark things. They have to be talked about. We have to normalize these conversations.
Yeah.
When you look at statistics of sexual assault, imagine if just 3 other people in your high school talked more about it. Imagine if 3 other people in your church talked about it. It would change things. There's 3 of us. Let's fucking talk and talk really loud. What is so important to the listeners, what is so important to all of us on any podcast that you will listen to under the Surviving Network is there's so much healing and so much control. Right now, I'm in a safe place with 2 of my really good friends, and anyone who's listening to this, you haven't listened this far if you disagree with the topic and what we're saying. If you've listened this far, you're a friend, which is a safe place. And I think it is so important that we laugh together. And I think it's so important that you all get to know your hosts a little bit, who you're going to be sharing your baggage with. And so I have come up with a few questions, my ladies, that I would like to ask you all. And you all do not know anything about these questions. These are just fun, lighthearted, rapid fire questions. Jennifer, I'm going to start with you. And I said Jennifer because it's very serious, my friend.
Oh, no.
What is your favorite guilty pleasure?
Oh gosh. I don't think I could say it on here.
Perfect.
It was something my husband bought me
That is
recently.
all we need to know. And
Now I'm getting a hot flash.
but what I love is you could have just made up something. You could have said, "Oh, gummy bears."
I'm an honest person. I cannot lie.
I love that. I love that you blushed.
Oh my gosh.
Because here's the thing, we are sex positive around here. Sex should be healthy. But I
And
was
the thing is that's cool is I went from hating it to loving it.
which we actually talked about in the episode.
Yes.
So
Yeah, there you go.
that isn't sexy. I don't know what is.
Love it.
So, Susie, I'm afraid to ask you what your guilty pleasure is. So I'm going to fast forward to the next question. Susie, what is your go-to karaoke song? Jenny, what is your favorite karaoke song?
Shania Twain, man, I feel like a woman.
Bum,
Da,
bum,
da,
bum.
na, 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 na. Let's go, girls.
Yes, I cannot wait to amazing.
So mine is yeah.
Okay, we're doing that when we meet. We're going to karaoke.
When we organize our retreats, we're going to have a karaoke night.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
I love it.
Okay, the last question I have for you all. We had mentioned that laughter is healing. So I want to ask you guys, who's the funniest person you all know? Who makes you laugh?
Oh gosh, my husband Ryan. He's hilarious. Funniest person I've ever met. He makes me laugh more than anyone.
Yeah, I would have to say my husband and kids, like they're so good at telling jokes and they usually try to tell them in the morning and I am like not awake. And I've had to ask, I just don't get it in the morning. Like,
Yeah.
jokes, but that's their favorite time to shoot them off and tell these funny jokes. I'm not very good at telling jokes. They've been helping me learn. Like, it's really cute.
Were you hoping we would say you, David?
Yes, you both
I
got
know,
that answer
your
wrong.
face.
Like,
He's so disappointed.
you can look at my notes. I have in my notes, as soon as they say, David, you always make me laugh. You bring me so much joy. I had a whole line to say.
You're close second.
So we broke record tonight for the shortest lived podcast in the world.
The one episode, he's shutting it down.
But going forward, and I feel like this is in the employee handbook, is to always make sure we laugh at David. With David.
Yes. The funniest person we know. Try that again. So,
Thank you.
who's the funniest person, Jenny?
Oh, David, definitely. Hands down. Funniest guy ever.
Oh my gosh. I feel like Beyonce when she won Country Album of the Year at the Grammys. Okay, so I want to say a few things. I started my podcast 3 to 4 years ago. COVID always throws me off. It could have been 10 years ago at this point. I wouldn't know the difference.
The other day, I asked how 2020 is going. And then I was like, wait a second, it's 2025.
Yeah.
What is happening?
20's been a horrible year. I was like,
5 years ago was bad from what I can remember.
I'm like, we're in 2025 now.
But I want to say that when COVID happened, I realized how much I needed my therapy, but the world was shut down. I was desperate for therapy. I was desperate for connection. So I started a podcast. And I honestly thought that I would just record an episode or two. My mom would like it on Facebook and I would throw the equipment in the closet. I never dreamed that even in my wildest dream at that time, I was solo on an island. To have Shayna Forrestal, Becky, Jason, Jenny, and Susie come in and take time away from their family, their friends, their life, and their things to make my dream combined with their dream the biggest and best dream in the world. And I can't thank you all enough for that. I love all of you. And thank you for letting me have this opportunity with you guys. I cannot wait to see where this goes. And I know that everyone that is a part of this show that comes here, they're in amazingly good hands.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that.
Do you all have anything good to say about me or no?
Of course.
We will end here, but I do want to throw out that if you are not following us on our socials, we have on all the social platforms, you can find The Process of Healing and Unholier Than Thou. Follow us on each. We are just getting started, but some really cool things are going to happen. We have some really big, amazing things in the future, some great guests. So please share, follow, help us get the word out there. We are wanting to continue with TikTok lives. If TikTok goes away, we will want to continue with Facebook and YouTube. We're not going anywhere, even if another platform disappears, we will not. But liking and sharing and commenting, leaving us 5-star reviews. People ask us all the time, how can I help? The biggest thing that you all can do is help us get the word out there. Leaving a 5-star review. Even if you leave a 1-star review and say, yeah, David's not that funny, it actually really helps us more than it hurts. I will read it. I will read the 1-star reviews out loud online and take accountability and be humbled by them. Leave us some reviews, like, share.
Healing is a
follow,
process, a journey to be experienced, not just a destination.
You are not alone in this. It's okay to take your time, explore different perspectives, and find what resonates with you. Healing takes courage, and we believe in you.
Together, we can enjoy the ride.